my last video, you know that we cooked a favorite dish of President Andrew Johnson's, who actually lived and was buried right here in my hometown of Greeneville, Tennessee. So we're here on Andrew Johnson Corner in downtown Greeneville. We're gonna tour all the major national historic sites that Andrew Johnson either had his business, lived, and even died. So come along with us and join us for that. We're here at a replica of his birthplace, because something we didn't know, he actually wasn't born here in Greeneville, Tennessee. He was born in Raleigh, North Carolina. And as you can see, he was born extremely poor and never even went to school a day in his life. His wife actually later taught him mathematics and writing skills. So he actually was apprenticed to a tailor, and when he was able to get a business in his own right, he made his way to Greeneville, Tennessee, fell in love with the town, and decided to settle here. So we're gonna go in here, look around, and then we'll take you on the rest of the tour. Andrew Johnson's rise to politics is a literal rags to riches story. He went from extreme poverty to owning a successful tailor business right here in Greeneville. From 1827, he married, became even more prosperous, and became a voracious reader. He absolutely loved books about famous orators and became very interested in political dialogues. He eventually sold his business to concentrate solely on politics. He won several town elections and eventually worked his way all the way up to Congress. He became vice president to Abraham Lincoln and was extremely pro-Union, even though he came from a Confederate state. But that doesn't mean to say that he was anti-slavery. He in fact owned about 8 to 9 slaves that we know of, buying his first slave named Dolly, who was 14 at the time. She would go on to have 3 children, and Andrew Johnson would actually rent his old tailor shop to her and one of her sons, that they turned into a successful bakery. He became the 17th President of the United States after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. He was quickly plunged into reconstructing the Union after a devastating war. Andrew Johnson's legacy is a very complicated one. Early historians would typically vilify him. In particular, historian James Rhodes wrote that Johnson acted in accordance with his nature. He had intellectual force, but it worked in a groove. Obstinate rather than firm, it undoubtedly seemed to him that following counsel and making concessions were a display of weakness. His pride of opinion blinded him to the real welfare of the South and of the whole country. However, by the 1920s, a historical revolution was taking place. Johnson was then seen as humane, enlightened, and liberal, who fought a battle against the unscrupulous radicals who were motivated by a vindictive hatred of the South. Johnson became a martyr instead of a villain. However, by the 21st century, Johnson has flipped again. It's been said by some historians that he maintained white supremacy and therefore brought trouble to the country for generations to come. He's seen as having completely undermined the Reconstruction. However, one historian, Gordon Reed, states of Johnson that his story has a miraculous quality to it. The poor boy who systematically rose to the heights, fell from grace, and then fought his way back to a position of honor in the country. For good or ill, only in America, as they say, could Johnson's story unfold in the way that it did.
So, being from a Confederate state, did Johnson actually follow Lincoln's policies after Lincoln was assassinated?
That's actually kind of complicated because yes and no. So he wanted the South to be able to come back into the Union, but a lot of people in Congress didn't think he was being tough enough. And he really butted heads in 3 different ways that led to his eventual impeachment. So first off, he tried to fire a cabinet member he didn't like and install one of his own. Congress did not like that. Then he allowed the South to have elections again right after the Civil War, and they ended up electing former Confederates. Congress was really mad about that one. But the worst offense was that he vetoed the 14th Amendment, which would have guaranteed former slaves actual rights and citizenship, and Congress went crazy. So they started the impeachment, but by the time it got to the Senate was like, this is gonna really overcomplicate things, and they really didn't want to go there, so they acquitted him.
So how did the 14th Amendment actually get passed if he vetoed it then?
Well, because Congress just vetoed him. They passed it anyway and then sent it to the states for ratification. And interestingly enough, Tennessee was the 3rd state to ratify the 14th Amendment, but it was also the only former Confederate state that ratified the 14th Amendment without protest, resistance, or demands of revision.
With all that going on, did he ever actually get elected in his own right or just from the assassination? Okay.
No, it was just because Lincoln had gotten assassinated. He actually tried, and he really did want to win again, but he was beaten by Ulysses S. Grant. He was sent back to Tennessee, but not in shame, because he actually was re-elected back to the Senate by the Tennessee people. That's how much faith they had in him. And unfortunately, he actually died a few months into his term and was brought back here at his request and buried on land that he had purchased previously, which we will actually go see after we get done with our tour here. So here we are at Andrew Johnson's final resting place. It's actually owned and operated by the National Park Service and is only one of 2 cemeteries in the entire United States that is still active, which means it has veterans buried here from the Civil War all the way to Afghanistan. This land was actually owned by Andrew Johnson, and he was buried here at his request, so not only would he be surrounded by the town that he loved, but also by the mountains. And there you have it, guys. We went through all the Andrew Johnson houses and memorials. It was absolutely fascinating. I would highly recommend it. And also, they have an excellent phone tour here where you can just take your phone, dial a number, and do the walking tour while listening to some really, really cool facts about Greeneville, particularly Civil War history, as Greeneville basically changed hands between Union and Confederates about 30 times. So we have a lot of fighting that went on right in here. So if you ever come through Greeneville, now you know you've got something to do that's free and absolutely fascinating, especially if you're a history buff. So thanks for coming along with us, and we'll see you next time, because next video, we're going grilling. So thanks for watching this one. We'll see you next time. Bye.
If you like this video, make sure to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button for future videos. In the meantime, here are 2 videos you may enjoy. Thanks for watching.